Hi, guys. I thought I'd jump on here to mainly introduce you to my wonderful new YouTube channel and to thank everybody who's already subscribing with me. And also to take a moment to introduce you to myself, what I do, how I got where I am today, and how I went from the sort of 9 to 5 rat race way of things into becoming a full-time medium, full-time energy healer, and what it took for me to get out of the spiritual closet. So let's get into it. So if you don't know me already, it's lovely to meet you. My name's Lottie. And my story, I'm going to start pretty much from the beginning. And it's what a lot of us do who tend to sort of come into the world who are psychically open and have abilities from the get-go. And that was me. I came into the world very much psychically open, psychically aware, having an instinct about things from a very young age. But at the time when I was growing up in the 80s, to me and to the world around me, it just wasn't sort of the norm to talk about it. And so I would have experiences when I was little of seeing things at the corner of my eye or connecting with things. And I would experience, if I'm honest, both light and darker energies. And it was kind of the darker aspect of things that made me shut my abilities off a little bit. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean I was connecting to dark things. It could well just be that that was my perception of them because I was experiencing them from such a young age. And so classically, as a lot of us mediums do, we learn to shut down those abilities and kind of dismiss them and try and live a more normal life, should we say. But it doesn't mean that I've gone on to or went on to kind of completely dismiss them. I always connected very strongly to my instinct about things, my gut instinct about people. Doesn't necessarily mean I listened to it at times. Don't get me wrong. There's many situations where I went very much down the wrong path, but that's where it sort of comes in, the sort of healing and growth aspect of things. But that's a story for another time. But there was always bits about me that kind of made me think, I know that there's something there. I know there's something more to me, but I was very fearful of connecting and opening up to that. So I spent the majority of my years just doing exactly what I just said, that sort of 9 to 5 rat race way of things, working for, retail companies, working for, customer service companies, technology companies, you name it. I've done so many things in the past, but none of them was speaking or singing to my soul. And in a way, I was always thinking, why do I not really fit in these environments? Why am I not getting promotions? Like, what's going on here? And it wasn't until it was actually really interesting because I've been on my spiritual path for quite some time. I've always had like a connection to different aspects of things. Luckily, I come from a family who's, for the most part, quite spiritually open and aware of things. So I was born into sort of quite an open family. And so it came to sort of mid-20s and I had like a number of different things going on in terms of the people that I was hanging around, the people that I was connecting with. And something inside of me felt like I was on the wrong path. And one thing led to another, and I had a couple of different sort of health conditions. I've suffered for many, many years, and I'm not ashamed to sort of talk about it because I think it's important to have an education around these things. I've suffered for many years with anorexia. It was a diagnosis that I got at quite a young age, and it kind of happened for a number of different reasons. There's sort of cruel things that children can say to one another. Very sensitive. I would probably be classed by a number of people as an empath. So I took a lot of things to heart when it came to certain things that children would say. But equally, because I know that it was my way of controlling the environment around me because of what my inner part of me was trying to get me to lean into, that I was hesitating around. So it got to sort of that sort of mid-20s when I started to realize that I was kind of going a little bit off the rails. I became quite self-destructive in a number of different ways. And I found myself in a position that I was put on my arse, so to speak, and really sort of forced to sort of look within. So this is like early best part of like 2010, that sort of era. I'm not really very good at doing the maths, but it's around about that sort of time. And that kind of like led me to really look within. And I started to find myself leaning back into like coping mechanisms, but healthy coping mechanisms. So I started to feel drawn to wanting to look into like meditation or reading sort of self-help books, as it were. And I know a lot of us sort of get drawn onto the path first and foremost through a well-known film and a well-known book called The Secret. And so I started to really look into sort of manifestation and doing things like that. And I found that I was really good at it, really very good at it. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And this started to open and reactivate parts of me that were craving to come out. But there was still that hesitation, that very much that resistance. So fast forward to, lockdown. And so in between sort of all this time, I'm a Virgo, so typical hermit mode. Between that sort of like later aspect of my 20s, and then probably like sort of 10 years later, you're in that sort of best part of the lockdown period. And again, I was really sort of finding myself needing to go within. There's another little sort of aspect of sort of healing that I was going through, doing all this sort of inner work. And as a lot of us did during that sort of pandemic point of time, is we were kind of pushed to really sort of look into the deeper aspects of ourselves. What do we need to heal? What do we need to get rid of? And you can probably call that, for me, like some of you might have heard the term, the dark night of the soul. And that's what I really started to experience. But again, I was still very resistant, still very hesitant to shut those sort of elements and parts of myself down that I was clinging on to in terms of my comfort zone, in terms of the path that I was like, I don't know why they call it a comfort zone. It's not comfortable at all, is it? But it's just the path that we're used to going down. We sort of train ourselves to go down one way and it feels comfortable for us, whether it serves us or not. So this aspect of myself I was desperately clinging on to, but clearly wasn't working out for me. I was heading in that direction, but in the background, I was getting more and more drawn into the spiritual part of me, the authentic part of me that was obviously really wanting to become the bigger part of my life. And me being as stubborn as a mule, as a lot of my friends and family will probably tell you, I can be incredibly stubborn when it comes to certain things. I was really hesitant to sort of lean into it. And over the sort of next sort of 2-3 year time frame, my life went through that epitome of the classic tower moment. And how did that happen? My anorexia was still very much in the sort of chokehold with me in the background. And how it sort of affects and has affected me is that it would mean that I would just be really not looking after my body in terms of fueling it enough, and becoming kind of very addicted to the exercise aspect of things. And so my body was really struggling. Okay. And one thing led to another, and I started to have seizures. Now, this was literally just like, I think this was 2020, around about the time. And I got taken to A&E one night after having a seizure. And that's when the ball started rolling in terms of me having scans and different sort of bits and pieces done to try and work out what was causing it. In the meantime, I was working a job that I actually really enjoyed. I was getting on with people there, but it didn't serve that part of my heart that was like, I didn't feel fulfilled. Okay. So another job came along and I thought, brilliant. Okay. That feels like I'm meant to be going in that direction and working there. It was for a fashion company at the time. And so I leaned into working there, and it very quickly, I realized that it wasn't for me. And in the meantime, I was still having sort of tests, trying to work out what was going on with my seizures and what have you. And we finally got to the root cause of it. And I had a wonderful neurosurgeon who confirmed to me that it was epilepsy. So I had a diagnosis of epilepsy. So what this meant is that in the background, when I was reconnecting to my sort of spiritual self, in the foreground, I was having my life sort of pretty much fall apart quite rapidly in front of my eyes. And that's what I mean by the tower moment. And so it really made me sort of start to reflect on things, the blessing in disguise. And I actually look at my epilepsy and my anorexia as a bit of a silver lining, because where I'm a bit of a justice seeker. And so when there's this sort of miseducation or, a taboo aspect of the way people talk about certain elements of invisible disabilities or mental health, I'm very vocal in not just sticking up for myself, but very much sticking up for others who maybe don't have the courage to do so for themselves. And when I got diagnosed with epilepsy for the first time ever in my life, it really started to make me treat myself very, very differently. And it started to make me treat myself like that I needed to look at my lifestyle and things that I needed to change, things that weren't serving me. And so I started to strip back things, disconnecting from environments that maybe weren't serving me, disconnecting from certain things in my health and lifestyle choices that weren't serving me, cutting out alcohol. Never a big drinker, but I knew that it wasn't working for me in the way, that it just wasn't a part of my life anymore. And so I was kind of bit by bit peeling back these layers. And as I was doing so, the healing that I desperately needed to do for many years, that's when it started to happen. And an instinct within me just kicked in and I started reconnecting, not at a choice. I was pulled kicking and screaming back into the path I'm in now, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I started to reconnect with the spiritual aspect of myself and reconnecting with spirit and feeling them a lot more around me again. And I'd had like a number of readings over the years, and a part of me always just knew this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is like who I am and what I should be doing and why I'm here. And it took a while for the penny to drop. I used to spend so many hours on YouTube. So if you find yourself doing the same, spending hours on YouTube looking at certain things or really like trying to absorb anything about a subject, it's usually an indication that maybe that's what you're meant to be doing. So take the hint. It took me a long while to realize. And so I did that. And I then started to think, okay, well, maybe now is the time for me to start reconnecting to that. Maybe I could look into, working out how I can reconnect to that part of my gift. There was a lot of fear, don't get me wrong, but I knew it was my desire and want for doing it was so much greater because the world around me just didn't make sense anymore. I couldn't connect with the work that I was doing. That was falling apart. I couldn't connect with the environments that I was in terms of certain individuals that I would connect with, and it just didn't feel right. And so I knew something had to change, and I knew that it was a massive leap of faith to lean into that and actually jump out my comfort zone. But I'm one of those people that when I'd done that for brief moments in the past, it had always kind of worked out. And so I was so ready. I was so exhausted from sort of pushing against me that I thought, right, just going to give it a go. And so I started to look on, it was really interesting. I started to look on TikTok, and interestingly, like I wasn't searching for it at all. So I know that my guides have been with me throughout this whole process, probably, kicking and screaming in the higher rounds, desperately waiting for me to get the hint. They were coming through me in any which way they could, through my dreams, through different sort of signs showing up on my path, through people crossing my path, through me having readings that were sort of giving me indications of things, just manner of different things just showing up. And I eventually clicked and got the hint. But it took me getting to rock bottom. So, if you feel yourself going that way, take the leap before you get there, because it can be a painful struggle if you get right to rock bottom. And it's not a nice place to be, but it got me there and it got me where I need to be now. And so I started looking on TikTok, and I stumbled across the wonderful Nikki Allen and her TikTok. And this was coming up to nearly a couple of years ago, I feel. And she just talks about and was talking about connecting with spirit in a way that you just think, where's this fear that I was creating about it? Where is this like aspect to myself that had any fear about connecting to spirit and about what it's all about. And so I bought a couple of her wonderful books. So if you haven't heard of her or read her books yet, or if you're a fan of hers and haven't read her books yet, honestly, get them. They are life-changing. Doesn't necessarily mean that the stories are going to be resonating in terms of you being a medium or anything like that, but it could well be that they're going to give you the kick up the arse that you need, because that is exactly what they did for me. And I read them and I started to sort of follow her, and I reached out to her. And lo and behold, I was lucky enough for her to sort of come back at the time. And I was basically asking her about if she had a development circle. I thought, I'm going to take the leap of faith. I'm going to get a bit of courage here, and I'm going to join a development circle. And so I reached out to her, and I knew at the time that she was at a point that she wasn't doing readings, but I thought, I'm going to ask her this question, because if she can't, maybe she can guide me in the right direction. And luckily she did. She came back to me and she pointed me in the direction of her wonderful brother, Richard Morley, who's another incredible medium. And I reached out to him and just expressed interest in joining his development circle. And I would say the rest is history, but it's not. So I joined the development circle, and very rapidly, I just felt like the missing piece had been reconnected. And it was just, it's like one of those cliche moments, but it wasn't. It was just incredible, because I felt for the first time that things were making sense in the world that was crumbling around me. It's like I said, that sort of tower moment, but very much like a ego death. Really, really was. And I was in the circle and connecting with people that were so like-minded, and I very quickly realized there was something there. I realized that there was an ability to connect to spirit, to loved ones who'd passed over, and it just resonated with me so deeply that even though I had a bit of a shit show going on in the 3D world, it made me think, it didn't matter as much. I was connecting so much more to spirit. And like, I'm very much, and have always been very sort of much a worrier and a bit controlling in nature. And again, like I said, it's like, I understand and feel that it's from that sort of upbringing aspect to me. I always desperately thought I have to make things happen. I had to try and control my life around me. So when I saw how I was connecting with spirit and how they sort of bring the information through and how they can make things happen, it just changed my life and gave me so much faith in something bigger. And that's one thing I always like struggled with when I was looking at law of attraction and stuff. Like, whilst I was really good at manifestation, that was that lack of like that tangible evidence of there being something, or like not knowing where it came from and how it happened. That was that sort of skeptic, logical part of me. But when I started to connect with spirit, I was like, there is just something extraordinary going on here. And it just really connected all the dots for me. And so I was focusing on that, and slowly but surely my 3D world was just falling apart. My health was getting worse. The conditions around me were getting worse. And usually it's an indication, guys, if you're on that sort of path where things aren't working out for you, it doesn't really mean that you're doing anything wrong. It could just mean that you're not in the right place, not where you need to be. And it's an opportunity to look inside and listen to that inner aspect of yourself and think, okay, well, if this isn't working, what is my heart saying that I want to do? Leaning into that and seeing if you can move towards doing something a little bit different, taking a leap of faith and trusting that there is something taking care of you. Because I can assure you, with my hand on my heart, that there is 100%. And so I left the one job that wasn't working out for me because of my health. I had to, and the environment just wasn't serving me being able to work there and focus on my health at the same time. And so I made a choice and a decision to leave. And I've got a bit of hair in my mouth. And I had a good period of time off. And in that time that I had off, I experienced so much healing. I got rid of a lot of noise around me, and I could really connect to sort of my team in spirit and my, guides, and really could navigate myself more so from just my instincts and my heart and all the signs that I was getting. However, I didn't 100% listen, and that sort of fear, that ego part of me jumped back in. and started to worry about money. And so I lent into a job, very considerate of the fact that I was making sure that I was going to somewhere that would be aware of disabilities such as epilepsy, and just making sure that I was going to be in an environment that would cater to me being able to work there without any hesitations around that at all. So again, it's like you can see, I really started to be very respectful of myself and my body and where I was going and what I was deserving of very quickly. And I'm not surprised this happened. Very quickly, it started to fall apart because something was desperately screaming that it wasn't for me anymore. Luckily, this time around, I got the nudge a little bit more quickly. And this was through me listening to more and more things about taking leaps of faith and having things show up on my path about, missed opportunities. And it was actually, again, it was one of Nikki's podcasts. And I think she was talking about tower moments. And I just listened to it. I must have listened to it like 3 or 4 times before I got the hint. And I thought, oh, right, okay, my spirit guides are clearly trying to give me a nudge up the arse. Probably should take note of that before things come crashing down again. And so in all of this, I've been doing sort of my development in the background, and I'd started to give readings here and there just to sort of practice outside of the circle. And then I started to sort of charge for them. And I started to see that seep more and more into my day-to-day life as the rest of my life was sort of dissipating and falling apart. And at this point, because I was becoming so much more confident about what I was doing and how I felt doing it, and had that sort of real passion for it, and also because I built so much resilience and confidence up in terms of my own path and my own respect and love towards myself, I actually didn't hesitate to come out of the spiritual closet. I know a lot of people do because it's so taboo, but like this day and age, we're actually really lucky because there is so much more out there about it. So much information, insight on sort of social media channels that I can imagine it's not as difficult as it would have been, say, like 20 years ago to do so. And so I didn't really hesitate. I got to the point that I was so comfortable in my own skin, even if I didn't like my, like certain parts of myself, I was acknowledging my flaws and, appreciating them, respecting them, and just acknowledging that they were there. And so when it came to me putting it out there and saying, loud and proud, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am, and accepting that different part of myself that maybe wasn't considered the norm. I've never been normal. So I'd accepted that wholly. I was like, I've always been a bit quirky. I've always liked alternative things. And maybe I was just expressing them in a way that was more comfortable for me, through the way I dress, through my tattoos, through the way I would have my hair on everything sometimes. And I thought, wow, I'm just going to fully embrace it and, come out completely out of the spiritual closet. And it's interesting. A lot of people weren't surprised. Even people that I'd never, ever discussed that aspect to me before, people just got it. And it just made sense. They were like, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense around you. And so I've been quite lucky so far that I've not really had anybody show up on my path who doesn't really get it or has an opinion. But even if they do, that's their prerogative. Like, everyone's entitled to that sort of freedom of speech. But I am so confident in who I am now. And my goodness, it's like done the world of good for my healing, because I was finally latching and leaning into that major authentic part of myself that I'd been 100% leaning back from. And like I said, I would not change it for the world. And so I took, like I said, I was listening to Nikki's podcast, and this was February last year, I think. And like I said, so I was doing readings in the background and leaning into sort of doing more and more development and just trying to absorb everything I possibly could outside of my work and day-to-day life. And then it came to February, and I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I know it's a well-paid job, but it's not working for me. My body cannot handle this anymore. I am not happy. And so I didn't have anywhere to go. I am a single person, so I didn't have a partner supporting me. I've very much got incredible family and friends around me, but I didn't have any, I was living in a shared place at the time. And I just thought, I have no idea how this is going to pan out, but I've got absolute and utter faith that it will. In the background, interestingly, in all of this sort of going on, not only did I sort of connect with Nikki's brother Rich, but myself and Nikki have become good friends. And honestly, I owe her so much gratitude and so much love for everything she's done to sort of help me and support me. And so I decided to write out my resignation, thinking, don't know what this is going to look like. Don't know how I'm going to go from here. Don't know, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. But I thought, what have I got to lose? If it doesn't work out, fine. I'll just go back to that 3D way of things. But if I don't do this, I am going to be more disappointed in not giving myself that chance. And sometimes we've got to do that. Sometimes we've got to acknowledge, we're good enough to give ourselves that chance and allow ourselves to take those risks, because there's no point in, second guessing some things in life. Sometimes you just got to take that opportunity, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, it's no big deal. You just go and do something different. But I knew that if I didn't take that opportunity, then I would be really peed off with myself. And so and like I said, I didn't really have any choice at that point. I really felt that spirit was pushing me right into a corner, and that I had to make a choice. And so I did. I wrote out a resignation, and this was February last year. And I pretty much overnight announced myself as a full-time medium. And I built my own website in the background, and I started to get my name out there. And like I said, I have met so many incredible people through the development circles that I've been in, and just connecting to, that more authentic part of yourself makes things sort of move towards you in a way that's more in alignment. And so I had some incredible people that started to put my name out there and started to recommend me. And then, like I said, Nikki just took me under her wing and agreed to endorse me on her website, which I honestly, even to this day, I just mind blown by the generosity. That woman has got such a big heart. So if you haven't heard of her, go and check out her channel. She's got her own channel on here, Nikki Allen, Psychic Medium. She is just incredible, phenomenal. And I owe her, like I said, so much, because the minute I decided to sort of give it up and start what I'm doing now, she got my name out there. And bit by bit, since March this year, let me reconfigure that. March this year, bit by bit in the background, I have started to build my little business. And like I said, it's not been easy. I had to make a huge choice I'm 40, I turned 40 in September. I made a choice to leave where I was living. And I actually now am staying for a period of time with my mum, just to get my business off the ground. Because to me, I was like, there's no shame in moving back with your parents if you need to, because if it's going to get you on the path that you need to go, and do it. There's no shame. Like, sod what anybody else thinks. If it's going to get you where your heart is showing you that it wants to go and where it needs to be, then just do it. Just lean into it. And so bit by bit, I've been building my business. And in June this year, I studied Rahani energy healing, which is an incredible healing modality, which I've started to not only do for my clients, but I am also now working with the wonderful Lorraine Dodder. And we're going to start doing online YouTube healings once a month to start off with. So look out for those. It's going to be something to look forward to. But yeah, so that's got me to where I am today. And business is rapidly sort of getting busier. And I have learned so much in the last number of months in not only my personal life, but when sort of connecting with spirit. They can teach you so much. And so if there's any hesitation around any of you who've got abilities and gifts and there's a fear around connecting with them and you're wanting to lean into them more, or something's telling you to, I would say 100% do it, because it has changed my life so much for the better. And it has given me that opportunity to really look at life very differently to how I did before. I used to be such a worrier, and I used to very much be, concern about the future and how that was going to play out. I live like pretty much day by day, the majority of days now, because you can see so much how we are supported by something bigger than us. And it's like I say, I get so much joy out of giving people readings and connecting them to their past loved ones, or guiding them through psychic readings, or offering them sort of spiritual coaching if they're on their own path of awakening, or they're going through their own sort of difficulties. And I get so much fulfillment from that I never thought possible. And it's really healed me in so many ways. I can look back at my life and make so much sense of my experiences now and who I am and why I went through what I did. And so even if it's like not a path of going down mediumship or anything like that, if there is something in your life that you feel that you need to change and that you're meant for something more than what you're currently going through, don't create more drama and stress for yourself by resisting that. Lean into it, because it usually is an indication that there is something bigger for you. Your heart is never going to guide you in the wrong direction. Mine has certainly not. The minute that I took the leap of faith and went, yeah, I'm going to hand in my notice, you would not believe the synchronicities that happen literally overnight. You couldn't make it up. There was nothing kind of indicating that anything was boiling in the background prior to that. But the minute that I took the leap of faith and went, yeah, okay, we're going to do something different, it just started to unfold so incredibly. And you could just see that it was kind of something that was saying, yeah, we've been waiting for you to take this leap of faith and waiting for you to do it. And pretty much that was my spirit team, my spirit guides. They knew that I was meant to be on a different path. And that can be for the same for many of you guys out there in many different ways. So if this video gives you anything, just take that as like a bit of encouragement, that if you feel that you can change something in your life and you feel that there's something more for you, lean into that. Okay, trust it, because it's doing that for a reason. Okay. And if you have any thoughts that, anything that you want to talk to me about, my inbox is open. I'm on social media channels. I'm on Facebook under my name. I'm on Instagram. And I'll link these all below, so you can sort of go through onto those. But if you feel that you're, needing something more in your life and there's a bigger plan for you or anything along those lines, and you need a bit of guidance around that, feel free to book in with me, message me. But yeah, that's a little bit of an introduction into me, into my channel. So what's this channel going to look like in the future? Well, I'd say who knows, but so pretty much me and Lorraine are going to be doing monthly healings every once in a while on here. So look out for those. They'll be live. We're going to kind of try and do them on a Sunday evening. So look out for notifications of that coming up. I will probably just be putting a lot of spiritual content out here. Maybe going through mediumship, different aspects of mediumship, my experiences with mediumship, my experiences with my energy healing. But yeah, I'm just excited to see how this goes. And if you have any questions for me, let me know in the comment section, and subscribe and like. And I look forward to seeing you guys again. Take care. Bye.